people that live in it, dear Father. Please be with our first responders and our employees and keep them safe as they're out working and helping us, dear Father. Dear Father, will always be special to remind that what the ultimate sacrifice that you gave. We just celebrated Easter, and I just want to thank you for it, dear Father. We ask everything in your most precious name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. And call on Commissioner Michelle Morgan for our pledge, please, ma'am.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 5, look for a motion and a second for approval of tonight's agenda, please.
Make a motion.
I have a motion to have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 6, approval of minutes from the work session meetings of March 28th.
Make a motion.
Second.
Let me do them all in one, if you don't mind, please. I should have told you, I apologize. Commission meeting minutes of April 2nd and the special call meeting minutes of April 8th. Now you can go. I apologize.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All those in favor? All opposed? Now is the time, item 7, public comments. The public comment period. This meeting is reserved for comments from the public. There are sign-up sheets at the back table of the room. We'll take the comments in the order that they were registered in. Remarks of each speaker may take up to 3 minutes. The purpose of the public comments is to allow you, the public, to voice county-related requests, concerns, and opinions. We welcome and appreciate the opportunity to hear your comments and suggestions, but please be advised that most issues require staff research and will not be able to respond to your inquiry during the public comment segment of this meeting. The sign-up forms have your contact information on them, and they will be assigned to that particular staff that pertains to that, and we will get back to you. The first one I have is, and if I mess up your name, I go ahead and apologize, Mona Shorter. And if you'll state your name and address, please, ma'am, for the record.
Mona Shorter, 158 Millbrook Court, Willowbrook, Georgia.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm here today concerning the census today, and I thank you guys for having me. Right now, we are laying the foundation for the census, getting ready for 2020 for the surveys that are coming out, and just would like for everybody to just encourage the community to return their form. You have a certain time to do that, and if not, we will have the census takers come out and to get your information from you. And also, we are offering jobs in the area. Carroll County is paying $17 an hour. You're getting paid every week, paid training, and also you get to make your own schedule. We have several positions, and the jobs do cap off at $27.50 per hour. And training is coming up really soon in the community, so we're asking everybody that would apply to go ahead and apply, because we're getting the first wave, getting ready for the first wave to go forward for the 2020 census, and for then on, it's gonna be flying high going forward. Okay, any questions for me? Okay, thank you for your time.
You appreciate it. Second one I have is Doug Dickinson.
Will this be for the rezoning?
No, sir, this is just for public comments. The rezoning is later on. Thank you. All right, seeing no others, item 8, I'd like to call on District 2 Commissioner Clint Chance for a presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked for this agenda item to be placed a couple of weeks ago. In my first few months here on the board, I've been able to be involved with the wellness program that we all know that we offer our staff, and it's available to the commissioners as well, to go and learn how to live healthy in a partnership with Tanner. I've been to a lot of programs, healthy eating, diabetes prevention, CPR, exercise in the workplace, just to name a few of the program courses. The laugh and joke that I have told Ms. Lee, the director, is as long as Ms. Lofton continues cooking good meals, I'm going to come. So they provide lunch for the employees and everyone that wants to come. But I just thought it was appropriate to thank the HR department our director, Ms. Lee, for all the hard work that they do. And I also wanted to let the public know, a lot of times when you think of the HR department, you think of only hiring and firing or something to do with your salary. We don't think about all the ins and outs that may go on behind the scenes. And I know there's a lot of staff hours and a lot of work put in. And little did I know that when this was placed on the agenda later on, that we found out last Thursday that our health insurance is coming in flat. And I do believe that the wellness program and everyone taking an initiative to live healthier has a role in that. And so I did want to thank Ms. Lee and wanted to let the community know what we're doing to try to make sure that we can keep health care premiums under control for the cost of the county.
Thank you, Clint. I think that's very appropriate. Item 9, moving into the financial session. Call on County Comptroller Alicia Searcy, please, ma'am. And you may as well just stay up there for the next several items too. So.
That's why I came.
Yes, ma'am.
Figured this is going to take a minute or two. First of all, we want to start with the packet. It's got the general fund on the front of it. That's our financial statements for the March. And again, in March, we've seen continued growth in our revenue. Our real and personal property taxes, we've already met our budget on that. So anything we collect from here forward is just going to be extra in addition to what we had budgeted for the year. The motor vehicle tax, we're at about 96%. We're running about $700,000 over last year, and that continues to be strong. Local option sales tax is running about $1.7 million over last year. We've collected about 84.5% of our budget, so we're running ahead of schedule on that particular line item too. And the insurance premium tax, we collect that once, and we collected it. We collected 107% of what we had budgeted. Our local energy excise tax is running strong this year too. We've already collected about 130% of the budget on it, with 3 more months to go. So our revenue lines are looking really good. Our cash in the bank is up this year over last year by $3,690,000 in the general fund. Our expenditures, our department heads are doing a good job of keeping those in check. At the end of the month, if everything ran as it should, we should have been about 75% of budget on our expenditures, and we were at 71.03%. So I think that the financial operations of the county is in good shape.
Any questions for Ms. Searcy? Hearing none, I look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? Like I say, while you're up there, just stay a while. Consideration to approve an employee bonus plan for June 2019. Item 9.2.
There should be a single sheet that is labeled Carroll County Employee Bonus Plan, June 2019. We are proposing that we give all of our full-time employees who have completed their 6-month probationary period a $1,000 bonus. All full-time employees who have not completed their 6-month probationary period a $250 bonus. Our permanent part-time employees a $250 bonus, and the bailiffs a $150 bonus. I think it was, the thought behind this was that our employees have not received raises, and this was a way of sharing some of our fund growth with the employees to keep them motivated to come to work every day and to put a little extra money in their pocket. So we discussed this at the board retreat and I think everybody was in favor of doing something and doing something for the employees.
Any questions for Ms. Searcy from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a comment that I'm definitely in favor of this. One of the discussions that we had at the retreat was the opportunity that we wanted to look at what could we do to strengthen not only attracting employees, but making sure that we could retain them as well. And I know we want to look forward to trying to see if we can bring the pay scales up for our employees. But one thing I do want us to consider in the future is looking at an additional classification for tenured employees, and we set that tenure level at 5 years. So I would hope collectively as a body moving forward in connection with some of the discussions that we had, that we would really try to take a look at our tenured employees and show a progressive step that the longer you're with us, there is a reward for that. So,
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, I think our employees do need the raise. I mean, they're the biggest asset that we have, and we've got to take care of them. But I do agree with, I know that HR is working on the evaluations and stuff, and I think that would be a step in the right direction. And I appreciate what the employees do for Carroll County.
I agree. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I look for a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 9.3, consideration of the FY19 budget amendment advertisement. This is not an approval of the budget amendment. It is only to advertise the amendment.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 9.4, presentation of the proposed 2019-2020 Carroll County budget. And before we get into that, I just want to take a minute of personal privilege, if you all allow me. Normally this is a process that goes on for 2 months or more, and I've had the joy of doing it in 3 weeks. So, but it goes without saying that been some long hours, a lot of shuffling and a lot of paperwork, a lot of paper going through, a lot of erasers, several batteries and calculators, things of that nature. But I want to say how helpful staff has been, department heads that have come in and met as we've gone through the formulation of this. I appreciate their conservative requests. I appreciate my immediate 2 staff that have helped wander me through the wilderness, if you will. Susan Mabry and Alicia Searcy for everything that they've done. I say all the department heads, but I've been dealing with them more on a more regular basis. I've been through several of these, having served on this board for a little while, but until you actually formulate what we've got here, you don't realize what all goes behind it. So I just want to say thank you to all of our department heads, employees, staff, and especially to Alicia and Susan for, as I say, helping wander me through the wilderness on this. The county charter provides that the chairman does present to the board no later than May, and of course we're having to do this a little bit different this year, each year a proposed budget for the following fiscal year to be published in the legal organ, along with the announcement of the meeting date and time for the public hearing, which will be May 15th at 10 a.m. here in the courtroom. I'll now ask Alicia to present the budget, and there is no action required at this time.
Well, Chairman, I'd also like to say thanks for your help and support through this, and thanks to the board for the guidance that y'all set forth in the retreat. That was invaluable to know what your intention was, and that was the basis of setting this budget. Was first of all, we tried to establish what we thought our revenues would be for the upcoming year, and then we took into consideration the guidance that you'd given us at the retreat and tried to be supportive on the expenditure lines to do those things. I also want to thank Ann. She was more than valuable in helping with the salary and benefits part of this. I probably couldn't have done this without the clerk's office. They've been over backwards. My staff did a tremendous job in helping wherever they could and just making sure their regular job got done every day. And it was a very time-consuming effort to put this together. But I'm pretty proud of what we got. This is a proposed budget, so if there's anything in here you see that you would like to change or you have questions about, that's what we're here to do. And we'll start to move forward with this. The biggest part of the change in this year's budget from last year's budget are the pay raises that we discussed during the retreat on February 1st and 2nd. And at the retreat, we all agreed that the employees should.
Ms. Searcy, are y'all having a hard time hearing them? Okay.
Okay.
Is batteries dead in that?
I don't think so. I
Okay,
must
can
not.
y'all hear it better now?
I'm sorry. I wasn't speaking
Okay.
close
I just
enough.
saw people.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So on February the 1st and the 2nd, we had a Board of Commissioners retreat, and a big concern during that retreat was pay for employees. And it was agreed upon at the retreat for the Sheriff's Office, the Correctional Institute, and E911 to get a 5% increase in this upcoming year. We also agreed to give the fire department $1 an hour increase to each firefighter, and those in this budget will be effective July 1st of 2019. The other departments are scheduled to receive a 2% increase on January 1st of 2020. So in each departmental line item, you'll see increases in the salary and benefits lines that support these pay increases. There's also one other area that increased across the board, and that's postage. Our stamp cost went from 50 cents to 55 cents, and I tried to take that into account in each one of the line items. So just starting with the first department, the County Commissioner's Office, again at the retreat we discussed adding a marketing person. That person is included in this proposed budget. We have also increased the training budget so that there will be enough training funds for new commissioners coming on board and a new chairman. The Elections Department requested an additional $55,000 in expenses for the presidential primary and possible runoff elections. I went back and looked at what our 2019 costs were for elections, and taking that into consideration with the projected number of races that we will have, I increased that line item by $35,000 as opposed to $55,000, and I do feel like that'll be enough money to cover if we have any chairman runoffs and then the presidential primary elections next spring. Additionally, we've been picked as trial county for the new voting machines, and the Elections Department felt like that there may be some cost associated with doing that, so they requested $3,000 of computer furniture and equipment to fund any potential expenditures there. Moving to our county general administration, we have moved our records management into the clerk of court. So we took the salaries that were in the county general administration line item and moved those expenses to the clerk of court. The human resource director requested that the county redirect wellness program expenses of $17,400, which last year were included in our safety drawing money which we did away with that program to move it to the wellness. That was not moved in the budget. It was left in a miscellaneous line item in risk management. So we're moving that money into the wellness program where it'll offset the expenses there. And again, at the retreat, we talked about increasing building repairs and maintenance by $20,000 and utilities by $45,000 because we've consistently seen utility cost across the board in each department going up. So we had to take a look at all of those items, and so we put an increase in the budget for that. In information technology, again at the board retreat, we discussed bringing somebody on board part-time to help with the demand in our IT department. The courts across the board have said that they just don't have enough IT to get the job done, and then our other IT guy's covering the rest of the county by himself. So we feel like a part-time person would start to help them get what they need. Moving on to the tax assessor. Last year we had put an assistant chief appraiser in starting halfway through the year in January, halfway through the fiscal year. We have fully funded that position this year. The tax assessor also requested an increase in temporary labor and overtime to handle additional hours needed for appeals because we're changing our tables and feel like there may be appeals coming down from that. We did fund that. The tax assessor also requested an increase in training and travel for the new GIS system. We included that in the proposed budget. There was also $40,000 for a personal property audit in 2019 budget. That has not been used, so we will be rolling that over into the 2020 budget. She had also requested $38,625 each year for 2020, 2021, and 2022 for pictometry aerial maps. We feel that the state of Georgia may have some of that information available to us, and she's agreed to take a look at some other options of getting those pictorial maps for our use at hopefully a reduced cost. We also increased the contractual services line in the tax assessor department to cover additional costs for the GMAS system and increases in office supplies and non-office supplies to help with additional materials needed for appeals and assessments. In the risk management line, we adjusted the liability and the auto to more accurately reflect what our current year expenditures are expected to be. And then we did move that safety drawing money out of the miscellaneous line into the general administration for the wellness. And the contingency line falls within this risk management. This proposed budget has a contingency line of $130,364. On the Superior Court, Judge Simpson requested that we increase salary supplements to cover a new court that he has started, and that is a domestic violence court. We did increase the proposed budget for that. We also increased the line item for court reporters who have received an increase in their per diem pay. The clerk of court, we have the 2% increase for for the pay increase, and then we also have the additional salaries for the records management people that have been moved into their salary line item. The district attorney had requested additional funding of $140,000 for an ADA and an assistant. This is not in the proposed budget. Judge Sullivan in the state court requested an additional attorney and to move a part-time assistant to full-time in the contracted public defender area at a cost of $37,000. We had a good discussion with Judge Sullivan, the public defender, and the solicitor about their needs. And with only one public defender in the state court, we run into situations where we have two people in the solicitor's office in two different courtrooms, and one of those courtrooms has to wait until the public defender's finished in a courtroom to come to that second courtroom, so it's really causing a bottleneck. So we did agree that the public defender needs another attorney, and there's also an issue with conflict. So if you've got a husband and wife that are both involved in a case and need separate representation, then you need more than one public defender to do that. So we have proposed an increase of $24,000 for the contracted public defender to help make things flow through state court better. And that court actually produces more fines than any of the other courts, so it may pay for itself. The solicitor also requested an additional assistant to help with the volume of cases. We discussed that at the retreat. That was an additional $40,000, and we did put that in the proposed budget. Magistrate Court, Judge Johnson came a few meetings ago and requested some increased funding for his software, somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000 per year. He still has not selected the software that he's going to use, but feels pretty confident that there won't be any cost for the first year and that the system won't even be installed until January of 2020. He also proposed a technology fee that we hope, well, if that gets passed, will offset some of those costs. So this year there's no additional funding in the proposed budget. If next year we get to the point that something changes, then we may have to revisit that. The probate court, we have a new judge, and for a county of our size, we're required to have a judge that is an attorney, and that makes her an Article 6 judge. There are a few differences. I think she can hear cases in state court and maybe even in superior court. So she had requested a salary increase of $7,278, and also an increase in temporary labor. But after looking at the temporary labor situation, I think there's enough money in the current budget to cover her needs. We took into consideration on her pay that all of our constitutional officers are paid the minimum set by the state, and so we did not add anything to the proposed budget for her salary or her temporary labor. She also requested additional money of $250 in publishing and advertising, $1,600 for expanded library resources, and $1,300 for bar dues and fees and dues and subscriptions, $1,100 in training, and $900 in travel for new training classes that she'll have to take, and those are funded in the proposed budget. In the juvenile court, Judge Palmer requested an increase for legal services for attorneys, guardian and ad litem's. He requested an increase of, I have of $17,000 per month, but that's not correct. It was $2,000 per month for a total of $17,000, I believe, on that. That line item we signed a contract with in 2012, and that amount has not changed since then. But we did not fund that in the proposed budget. We just didn't have the funding to do it with. The public defender also requested an increase in their contract amount of $132,000. Part of that was for personnel, an increase of an attorney, and a 2% pay increase for their department, for their area, and an additional $6,000 in operating expenses, including IT and telephone. Those increases are not included in the proposed budget. The sheriff's office, the most important thing to the sheriff was that we give the pay increases to his personnel, and so that is included in this budget, the 5% to the sheriff's department. We also looked at some other areas where their expenditures are running higher than their budget and felt like there was increases needed there. Travel, $2,500, training, $1,000, gas and oil, $25,000, computer, furniture and equipment, $200, dues and subscriptions, $3,000, utilities, $5,000, and uniforms and supplies, $10,000, with also an increase of $15,000 in building, repair, and maintenance that we discussed at the retreat. All of those items are funded in the proposed budget. The correctional administration, they also received a 5% pay increase, and they were, I feel like they were pretty satisfied with that. We also increased their building repair and maintenance line item by $15,000, as we talked about at the retreat, and we increased the utilities by $2,000 just to meet the current expenditures. The fire department, we increased all the firefighters by $1 an hour, and we also increased their training by $3,000 to meet current expenditures. At the retreat, we discussed increasing their utility budget, but right now they're running online. I don't think that we're going to need additional dollars in the utilities for them, so I did not include that in the proposed budget, but the $3,000 for the training and the $1 an hour pay increase is included in the proposed budget. The coroner asked for an increase in autopsy supplies, so we increased that line item by $1,000, and it is in the proposed budget. The telecommunications system, I don't think they've increased fees in quite a while. I'm not sure what the time period is, but they voted to increase their fees by $50 a radio, and that reflects a $26,000 increase to the county for our total cost of $216,000 per year. That is included in the proposed budget. Animal services, their office supply and expense is being increased by $2,000. Their non-office supplies are being increased by $500. And their utilities are being increased by $10,000 to meet current expenditures. And that's all that they had. Public Works, our vehicle repair and maintenance is running a good bit higher, but on the flip side, we're doing a lot more work for agencies outside, like Georgia State Patrol, Department of Natural Resources, the other municipalities in the county. So some of that cost is being offset by additional revenue, but they need about $100,000 more in vehicle repair and maintenance to cover the extra costs that they're seeing there. They've also got office supply and expense, we're increasing by $5,000, and utilities we're increasing by $3,000 to meet the current expenditures, and all those things are in the budget, in the proposed budget. Solid waste collection, our trash hauling, we discussed at a meeting or two ago. Waste Industries went up on our contract, and the board agreed to increase those costs by $137,000 a year. Our tipping fees are increased by $125,000 a year for additional tonnage that we've been sending to solid waste. And then our convenience center expenses are increased by $20,000 for increases in utility cost and the center staffing. And all of these are included in the proposed budget. The recreation department, we've increased building repair and maintenance by $15,000 and utilities by $30,000 for the addition of the gymnastics center, which is scheduled to open this summer. Both of these items were approved at the retreat. The recreation director also requested an increase in contractual services of $4,100 to cover the additional charges from Civic Rec software. And to meet current expenditures, telephone was increased by $2,000, seed, plants, fertilizer was increased by $2,000, and these increases are included in the proposed budget. Carroll County Parks, we agreed at the retreat to increase building repairs and maintenance by $10,000. The park director has also requested an increase in supplies non-office of $5,500 to cover cost of chlorine at Little Tallapoosa splash pad and supplies at the Clem Center. Equipment repairs and maintenance is increased by $1,500, and gas and oil is increased by $3,000 to meet current year expenditures. All of that is in the proposed budget. Ag resources, the University of Georgia submitted a plan to our extension agent where we could move a part-time person to a full-time person, and they would fund the other half of that salary, and we would have to pick up $20,000 in salary, Social Security, and retirement. In addition to that, they're going to give us a SNAP program assistant and a family SNAP Ed agent that they're paying for. So we're able to add 2 more people at the Ag Resource Center. And a lot of this is going to focus on families that are below the poverty level who are having a hard time feeding their families, and developing programs to help them to become able to either produce their food or learn more about nutrition. There's a direct tie between nutrition and obesity rates, and they're going to try to address some of those things. So we felt like us picking up $20,000 in a part-time person was well worth that money for the University of Georgia to basically give us 2.5 more people in our county. Planning and zoning, the workers' comp line, I need to go back and research that. I may have picked up a wrong number there, so just line through that for the time being. Telephone, we increased $600. Office supplies and expense, we increased by $2,000 to meet the current year expenditures. and these are included in the proposed budget. So, in a nutshell, our proposed revenue for 2020 is $53,080,900. That's an increase of about $2,767,000. I think that our current revenue growth supports that. We went through these numbers very carefully and tried not to overestimate anything as far as our revenues were concerned. And I hope by the end of the year we'll see revenue numbers in our actual column that will actually support this number. We're projecting revenue growth in real and personal tax of about $857,000, in vehicle tax $570,000, 1% sales tax $875,000, and the insurance premium tax of $510,000. Those are the biggest line item revenue growth that we have, and that's why I highlighted those. If we take out our contingency, our expenses are going to increase by $2,761,412, and the salaries and benefits contribute about $2 million to that. So that's what the pay raises. That was the effect of the pay raises. There's a lot of other information in this packet. I'll be glad to go over it with you. I don't want to bore everybody to tears with numbers. So I'll conclude what I have to say. Again, thank you for your guidance and your leadership, and I hope that we filled your expectations with this budget.
And I would say too, to the other commissioners, we'll have plenty of time to get in, and if you've got specific questions, you really need to get down in the weeds, certainly be available to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to thank you and Ms. Searcy and Ms. Mabry. I'm sure Ms. Lee, I don't know who all was involved in putting this together. I know it's been a lot of information to be crammed in a short period of time. One thing that I would like for the board to be able to do in the future is have the opportunity to sit in on the department heads when they come. I know that we talked about a lot of stuff at the retreat, but typically those retreats, and I'm speaking for myself, is a lot, what do we see the vision? But our professional staff, or the boots on the ground, they have the years of experience. And the enabling legislation requires that the chairman present a balanced budget, and I certainly don't want to interfere or try to influence that. But in the same note, if a department asks for three things, the senior administration or the chairman may agree on one and not the others, and we might want to, as a board, we may want to consider other items. The hard problem in going back and trying to talk with a department head is something may be told in good innocent faith, and then you come back and talk to the chairman, and the chairman says, well, that wasn't discussed in our original meeting. So I think it's important, since this collective body is voting on the entire budget, that the collective body at least have the original information through the discussions. And I think, and that's not meant to be a negative. You all have done an outstanding job. I just think it's a way to improve, and someone like myself that wants to have a little more hands-on in seeing how were these numbers generated, or what was the methodology behind what was put in and what was not. And I think listening to the professional staff would be extremely helpful just for me. But again, thank you all. I know it was a lot of hard work and a lot of hours, and I thank you and commend you for it.
Well, with the time constraints that we had, it was hard to allow all of those things to happen, and I'm very open to that process.
I suspect that whenever we get back into some sense of normalcy, if you will, that certainly can be addressed.
Thank you, sir.
The other thing that we did do is that we tried to include any request, even whether it was in the budget or not in the budget. I tried to include that in these notes, so you knew if a department was requesting something and they didn't receive funding for it, that let you know that they had requested it.
Yes, ma'am, and I appreciate those notes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Searcy. Go rest your feet now. Item 9.5, budget resolution for the continuation of the FY19 budget. Call on County Attorney Stacy Blackman, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is a proposed continuing budget resolution with the upcoming election. If we don't have a quorum, it's a resolution to continue to operate under the fiscal year end 2019 budget, our current budget, until such time that you adopt the fiscal year end 2020 budget.
I look for a motion from the board.
Make a motion. Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you, ma'am. Item 9.6, our liability and risk management insurance renewal. Call on Newton Jennings, representing J. Smith Lanier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For me, okay? Good.
May need to adjust it up just a little bit more.
Up a
There
little
you
bit.
go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here this evening, and appreciate y'all allowing J. Smith Lanier the opportunity to represent Carroll County in regards to your insurance and risk management program. Everyone should have received a document last week, proposal document of about 42 pages. Tonight, I'm prepared to pedal through that document. If y'all would like to, page by page, I can provide a high-level overview. Or if you've reviewed the document, feel free to just ask me questions, anything in regards to that document you'd like to review specifically. I'm prepared to do that. But just in respect to the agenda, if you want me to high points and then drill down on anything that's needed, be happy to do so. High points?
Go ahead with the high points
Okay.
anyway. And we'll go from there.
All right, so there's 8 coverages being renewed effective 7/1 this year. Those fall into 2 primary buckets, your property and your casualty coverages, property being property, and then your equipment on your inland marine schedule. On the casualty side, you've got general liability, public officials liability, law enforcement liability, employment practices liability, your commercial umbrella, and your automobile liabilities. Property consists of 54 locations, about 124 million TIVs spread across those locations in Carroll County. Equipment value somewhere around 20 million on the schedule that's included in the proposal document. General liability exposures, and these include public official, law enforcement liability, roughly are very close to the same last year, about a 2% swing. Operating expenditures up about 2%. We had those at about 50 million, which is going to work to your benefit. No harm, no foul. Employee count is roughly the same as last year. We've got one person, 928 from 929. Law enforcement professionals or personnel, that went from 234 to 252. Automobiles, again, that's roughly flat. There's one difference. You went from 385 units, or from 384 units to 385 units. Premium, which I'm sure is probably where most everyone focused their attentions, up $52,000 or 8% over last year. Primarily due to losses, exposures are mostly the same. And bottom line is there's about 2.9 million paid in premium over the last 5 years, and insurance carriers measure your performance over roughly a 5-year period with your most recent years weighted heavier. So there's about 2.4 million paid out in claims versus about 2.9 paid in premiums for an 82% loss ratio. Now, to give you a comparison on where you need to be is somewhere, between, a target loss ratio is 40% or below. Once it gets to 40%, up towards 60%, you're certainly right in temperature. And for 5 years, we're sitting at 82%. So that's where you're seeing that increase. So we did go to market. We had several of the carriers present, they reviewed it. For competitive reasons, we did not get any other quotes that were comparative to what we had. So the original numbers that came in that we provided were about 724,000. We did get those down to 698, which is sitting at about, again, an 82% loss ratio. I would like to certainly remind Commissioners, that our services from a loss control perspective are at your disposal. You know, I'm a Carroll County resident. We do have a pretty robust service platform in regards to risk management and safety. Anything we can do, similar to Mrs. Lee was talking on the wellness program, we'll certainly lay out the red carpet. You know, whether it's the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, whatever you would like us to do, we'll certainly make those available to the county. So, any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Jennings, I've got a few questions.
Okay.
When you talked about the loss exposure, is there any, have you narrowed that down to any specific categories like we're seeing?
Certainly.
Okay, I mean, when you talk about the ratio we need to work on, it looks like we need to narrow that down and work on categories.
Great question, Commissioner. So if you look at those 8 buckets that I referenced, there's 2 that we got at temperature, primarily the auto. That went up from a 54% loss ratio to 60/96, which is a 42-point bump, which is notable. And that's in the current year. So when underwriters are looking at this, so they're looking at how your losses develop. So, you know, whatever you do the most recently carries the most weight. So the auto line and that's typically easy, you know, a little bit different from municipalities, but that's something you can tackle with loss control resources. Safe driving practices, you know, there's just a lot of distractions that everybody has behind the wheel today, and certainly our men and women in uniform fall into that category. So, but the auto, and then the law enforcement professional, there was that ticked up from a loss ratio perspective from 24% to 96%. We've got a good partnership with Brit, the paper State National, who we look at now. They've provided coverage for the last 3 years for the majority of what is included in our proposal. Arguably, they have certainly lost money on this program. They continue to offer renewal, which we're grateful for. If we did not have their proposal, we'd be sitting in a little bit different spot right now. So they have an arsenal of resources that we can tap into as well.
So you bring up one of my questions on page 40, the law enforcement. I noticed there were several categories there, and all of them had a $3 million aggregate. And I guess my question is, by nature, with law enforcement, is that a category that possibly would need a higher aggregate, or? I guess I'm just trying to.
You do have an umbrella that goes over that as well that actually provides it's a $4 million aggregate, so we could certainly address that. But you would do that via an umbrella. You add additional umbrella limits to build that aggregate up.
And I'm not suggesting we need it. I'm just asking the question and looking at the categories. So I'm not saying we need it. I'm just asking. Yeah.
Fortunately, none of the claims. If you look at where we've been, it's the current development this year is not a lot of. It's mainly frequency in regards to the auto, but law enforcement's one. A couple of large instances. But we can certainly, put that out there and run some numbers and let you know what that would cost. But there's not any one specific claim that's approached that bucket, so to speak, of limit.
A couple of the questions, and these are just examples as I was thumbing through these. So on page 13, that's where we first start listing some of the different fire stations. I noticed that a lot of the stations the building is at $346,800, and then we've got personal property at $6,900 that are repetitive. And so I guess I'm just trying to rationalize in my head, if we have a fire station, do we really think if it burnt down, could we replace it for $350? Let's say if it was $600,000, is that something you're going to cover, or is that something that on each one of these replacement values they need to be accurate, and are they accurate?
So in specific to the property coverage, I would strongly recommend that you insure each location to what the replacement cost value would be. So if you feel like that number's low, and that's part of this process, we encourage you to look at that, and if it needs to be $600,000, $800,000, or $200,000, whatever that number needs to be, it's incumbent on us to receive that information from you in regards to where it needs to be insured. So we don't set those values, so we'll take that information that's provided by us, and sometimes we'll give it a scrub or a sanity check, but we are not appraisers. You don't ever want your insurance representative to turn into an appraiser. So, but a little bit of peace of mind in the way this policy is structured, you do have a blanket limit of coverage. So if you look at page and this is not it's not meant to be a catch-all, it's more of a sleep at night, so to speak. You've got blanket building limit of $67 million under the Chubb policy, so all of those limits roll up into one nice big bucket. The reason we're able to negotiate that blanket is they feel relatively comfortable with the limits at each one of those locations. So if the insurance carriers were to really drill down and say, okay, what's our true replacement cost for those, we could certainly get some pushback on whether that was an acceptable value or not. But as it stands right now, these are acceptable values per the insurance company. I'm not telling you that's exactly what it's going to cost to replace it, but you do have that $67 million bucket.
Okay. I guess, so the process is, do we have a staff member that works directly with you that goes through and says, hey, I think these numbers are in line with this fire station or this particular building? I guess, I understand you're not an appraiser, but in the same note, if I've got a house that's worth $100,000, you're not going to allow me to buy $1 million coverage. So I'm just trying to figure out how you get the value or how you do your job in working with our staff to come up. What is the review process? How did you come up with this document?
So we provide a renewal kit. Or a renewal document that is virtually the same document with a schedule of all of your locations that have values attached to them. And there's a section in there that allows you to change those values as needed. If we need to bump them up, we bump them up. If we need to move them down, we move them down. And that's where those numbers come from. And
Who bumps them up and moves them?
I'm sorry?
Who does the bumping and who reviews that document?
The county does. We provide the document to you, and the county would review those property values and amend them as necessary.
Chairman, what employee reviews that?
Okay, and I do not know who they are.
Okay.
And please view this as somewhat of a dynamic document. If you needed to change any of these now, I mean, theoretically, you can move those anytime throughout the policy period. They're malleable numbers. You can move them. I just preferably before a claim, not after.
Well, like I said, it was a lot to try to digest, and a lot of the repetitive numbers. I mean, I know from driving around, one building is not going to be the same as another, but yet they're locked in at the same amount. And I'm not a staff member, so there may be a good reason why those numbers were there. Another example was on page 19, the old State Patrol office. There's 11,500 listed for personal property, but there's no building value. Now, I know that building is old, and we may be considering it's not worth anything, but then I'm wondering if it was abandoned, and I assumed it was, what's in it that's worth $12,000? So those are, and you may not be able to answer that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just saying, as I go through some of this, everything did not seem to match up if I was the one trying to put the numbers together.
No, Commissioner, it's a great question. It's a great comment, and I would urge you, if there's something that does not look right, I would encourage you to let us know, and we'll move those numbers wherever they need to be.
Okay, and I appreciate your answering those questions.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Jennings? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Appreciate your time and appreciate you getting us answers to questions. It's very, very needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Moving along, item 9.7, consideration of funding to renovate the group lodge at John Tanner Park. Call on Ben Skipper, Parks Director, please.
Thank you, guys. You want me to order a pizza?
That would be nice.
Woo, we need to shake it off here a little bit, don't we? It's been a long night so far, but anyways, getting to the business at hand. John Tanner Park, as you know, I know a lot of people behind me listening tonight don't know that back in March we was doing our annual inspection before spring break. We found some water damage on some floor joists tied to the band boards. We started pulling up the floor, and obviously with this being a 50-plus-year-old building, it's gone through about 3 renovations, and we're at the point now that the floor system for all 4 of the bedrooms will need to be replaced. So that's what we're looking at, and that's why we were asking for this $50,000. The group lodge, just to tell you a little bit about it, not everybody's aware of it, but the group lodge out there sleeps 40 people overnight. It's a large living area with a fully equipped kitchen, fireplace, screened-in porch, and outside deck. The rental fees for the lodge generates approximately around $40,000 each year annually. So this is quite of an attraction, and we have families that are having their 50-plus annual meetings here at the Group Lodge for Family, get-togethers, family reunions. So it's a big part of the community out in the Mount Zion area and to other people around the county. So, we got any questions?
Mr. Skipper, I wanted to thank you for including in there the annual income. Anything that we're taking income in, we've got to spend something, it really helps to see that. So I just want to thank you for putting it in there. Kind of lets us know what we're losing or what we're putting back to start back gaining.
Absolutely.
So.
And we, in doing that, Beth Parsons, the park manager, just made me look really good because since she's been park manager, she's been breaking everything down individually, from the group lodge to the hotels to the RV camping, tent camping. And then the pavilions, each thing is a line item that you get on your monthly report that you can see individually. Instead of you just getting a large number for John Tanner,
right,
you can actually see what is your annual day passes coming through, right, and then your rentals for recreation. So thank you, Clint.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve. My family has enjoyed this many times. I'd like to see it fixed pretty quick.
I second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ben. Item 9.8, consideration to construct 2 pavilions at Little Tallapoosa Park. Call on District 3 Commissioner Tommy Lee.
Yes, sir. I have had a lot of requests for pavilions at the Little Tallapoosa Park since we have the splash station. And we've been talking about it for a couple of years, and what I've done is requested Ben get some numbers to build a couple and use splash money to build them. You have those numbers.
Sure, I have those numbers. Those numbers are in your backup material. To tell you a little bit about that, the spray and splash has been every county's, it's been our county, I'll say every county, it's been our county's success story. We built a spray and splash, and it's been a huge success. Last year, we averaged 145 vehicles per weekend that's coming to the spray and splash. And if you've been out there on any afternoon, you will know that once you see Tommy. We have a problem with parking, a little overflowing. And parents are starting to more and more request to rent the entire spray and splash out. Now, obviously, it being a public park and open to the community, we can't rent out the venue as a private venue. So our solution to that is to build some small pavilions around the spray and splash that moms can rent out, have birthday parties, and the kids come and they can see them, you know, right at the pad and still stay, find some shade during the summer months so they can run in and out of the spray and splash. In addition to that, we want to add to the parking out there. We have the parking issues are a little short. To talk to some of those things, what we're using, Clint, is the pavilions from John Tanner State Park. Each pavilion, a like-size pavilion that we're proposing at Little Tallapoosa Park, that we're using John Tanner Park's numbers. They're working at about $4,000 annually per pavilion. So these 2 pavilions would generate $8,000 approximately annually for the rent of the building, and that does not include the $5 passes. So each parent of a child that comes to the party, you know, they're going to pay $5 per pass for the day, and that's just a day pass.
I've been on the fence about this, not that I don't think we need it, I just wonder if there's any way we could do it a little cheaper, and I know that we've got all of our resources stretched as thin as it is, but I want to be able to support this. I just wish if there was some way that we could work to try to get that number down, and I don't know if you've got the answer for that, but just...
Well, what we had done was we had priced it at $50 a square foot, which would be a market price, having a contractor come in and finish those. Our biggest cost of construction is not going to be the pavilions. It's actually going to be in concrete and the bathrooms, because we're going to have to add additional bathrooms out there. Right now, we only have one his and hers, so we're going to have to build a whole new building of bathroom. So the bathroom, concrete, septic tank, drain field lines, that's where a lot of our cost is coming in, is for the,
If, if our public works becomes available, I'm sure we can.
we could do the
use them.
work in-house. It's just one of those
If
of,
it becomes available, and then the excess funds would go back into the.
right, the excess funds would go back into the SPOS pot, sure. I think that was a request for help, Charles Pope.
Any further discussion from the board?
Thank you, Charles.
Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, agenda item number 9.9, consideration of the City of Whitesburg's request to change the designated use of property located at 1130 Main Street, Whitesburg, from green space and passive recreation to administrative facilities for the use of the location for construction of a new city hall. Call on District 5 Commissioner Lee Powers.
Yes, Chairman, I received an email around the first of the year asking for our help from the mayor, Amy Williford, and calling her back, she expressed the need for a new city hall. And evidently several years ago, before I guess all of us on the board, that we bought some property, and I think it was designated for green space or parks or something, and they're requesting us to change that use so they could use it for the city hall. And you're okay with, the attorneys are okay with this, right?
Yes, I think your
I can't hear
materials.
you.
Can you hear me? The materials state that in 2009, the county granted the city of Whitesburg request for $35,000 of SPOS funds to purchase 4 acres at 1130 Main Street, and it was to be used for green space and passive recreation. And so now they'd like to use a portion of that property for the city hall location, and that is a permitted purpose under the 2008 SPOS.
But there's no deed restriction on that piece of property, right?
This deals with, as far as we know, there are no deed restrictions. This is just, that was their request for the funds.
Okay,
And
so they just
we're-
requested, but the county never put in deed restrictions, right?
No, all that was done was they granted the request for the purpose for green
Okay.
space.
I'd make a motion for us to approve that.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 9.10, consideration of Commissioner Powers District 5 request to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Whitesburg to provide $100,000 for the construction of the new City Hall building. Call on Commissioner Powers District 5.
There again, Mayor Williford called and asked, could we help them with some money? Being that we like to work with our cities, and we've done a lot for Rooteville, and we've done a good bit for Whitesburg also, but there's some monies that was left there. And y'all know that I initially turned that, I took it off the budget a couple months ago because I wanted to see end use of it. I wanted to see the plans and construction cost, and Will gave me all the plans, and matter of fact, I've got a set of plans that I would like to give each one of y'all, that what they're proposing to build. Is that 6 of them? And there's one. Mr. Smolar gave these, a drawing of these, rendering these plans to us. So after reviewing the plans and the construction costs that was provided by the city of Whitesburg, I was okay with giving them some money and helping them build them. I think that y'all raised, what, 200, you told me 200 something, and I wanted to see Whitesburg have some skin in the game also. So they've already raised, what amount was it, William? $245,000. So being that they've raised the money and provided these documents that I wanted to see, I make a recommendation that we give them $100,000 to help them out with their new city hall.
I'll second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 911, consideration Commissioner District 5 Powers request to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the West Georgia Regional Library System to provide $20,000 to be used for capital outlay purposes for the purchases of books, etc., for the Whitesburg City Library. I call on Commissioner Lee Powers, District 5.
Yes, Chairman, I received an email from Miss Jackie Pate saying that they needed some help with buying some supplies and videos and some other things that the city of Whitesburg with the library needs. And you know how much that we love the friends down there and love that our rural libraries, that I wanted to give them a little help today. And so I will make a motion that we give them $20,000 to help them with buying VO books and whatever they need.
I'll second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 912, consideration of Commissioner Powers District 5's request to provide $30,000 for the enclosure and heating and air conditioning of the pavilion located next to the old ranger station at McIntosh Reserve. Call on Commissioner Lee Powers, District 5.
Yes, when I came in office, we've got several requests from the Friends of McIntosh wanting a place that was out of the weather. They do a lot of walk and talks and activities down at McIntosh. So what I would like to do is give the to enclose the pavilion beside the old ranger station, so they'll have a dry space, air conditioned space, and heated space to have activities down there. And I'm gonna call on Ben Skipper to elaborate.
When we said the old ranger station, did you mean the spray and splash station where the new bathrooms are, or the one at the other? I just want to make sure we knew.
The one at the old ranger station.
Okay, that's the one that's got the least amount of parking, but that's not, I mean, but it'll still be great to have. To talk about, while we're here from Parks, talking about the enclosing a building at the McIntosh Park, because we don't have one in that area. To talk about the Clem Community Center, what we're running into now is not enough dates to rent the Clem Community Center. So we're running into complaints because the dates are already out. I had one call today, they're looking for the 2 dates in June, it's already booked. But to just kind of give you the revenue, year to date from when we opened in 17-18, we were at 7850. That was a 17-18 year. Year to date this year, we're at 11,360. So just for the month of March, we're $1,400 at Clem. Where a year ago, it was 620. So it's more than doubled in a year. And I think that's just because word of mouth has now traveled out of just how great a facility is at the Clem Community Building. So, you know, we doubled in a year. To give you another example, that we have another building at the John Tanner's Park, which is in Mount Zion, that's heating and air, that's air conditioned. Because most pavilions at the park do not have heat and air. So, but we have one building at Tanner, Clem Community Center, and then this would be at McIntosh Park. John Tanner Park year-to-date rentals for that all-weather building is $11,003. So as you can see, these buildings are, you know, year-to-date, they're training about equal, you know, around $11,000 each in revenue. Thank you. Any more questions?
No, but you're talking about the parking at the
At the ranger station is the pavilion that you have to drive up the ramp and then you have to walk down the hill to the parking lot. Versus the pavilion that's at the Spray and Splash, that's the one that has the big parking area.
But the bathrooms are attached to the one at the ranger station, right?
The bathrooms are attached to the one at the Spray and Splash.
At the,
Right, at the Spray and Splash. So to get ADA, to get it handicap accessible, we're gonna have to take some trees down and expand a driveway for the one at the ranger station, where the one it's at the Spray and Splash, it's a level enough spot.
then let's
that
change
when
that.
you put a door on it, we're not gonna have to ramp up it into an elevation.
Then
So
let's change the location on that.
that was all I wanted to bring to
Okay.
your attention, was
That's okay. But we do want to keep the theme of the park kind of rustic when we close it in.
Absolutely,
Okay.
but as you know, when you enclose a building, we now have to meet all ADA standards.
I understand, but outside,
Outside
Look,
would be rustic, in keeping with McIntosh's theme.
and let's change the location to the Spray and Splash then.
Okay.
That's because it'd be
Which is
probably
large
cheaper.
pavilion number, don't remember. Brought my ace over here. It's the large pavilion at Spray and Splash, so we know which one we're talking about. Thank you.
So I make a motion.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 913, consideration of bids to construct a bridge on Tice-Carrollton Road over the Little Tallapoosa River, and to authorize the chairman to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Carroll County Water Authority to pay for the cost of the relocation of the water line in connection with the bridge project. Call on Public Works Director Charles Pope and County Attorney Stacy Blackman on standby, for lack of a better term.
Thank you, Chairman. And what we're presenting tonight is just to replace the bridge, and the road alignment will be done by Carroll County in-house. When we sent out the RFPs, we had 6 companies to respond. The lowest bid was $1,146,770.93. That is Baldwin Paving out of Marietta, Georgia. And when we approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Water Authority, there'll be $31,117.13 took off of that. That'll leave the bridge cost at $1,115,653.20 just for the bridge project.
Make a motion.
Didn't you have some other funding with that also, Charles?
We do. I'll go through that if you want me to.
Yes,
Chairman Smith and I went to Atlanta and met with the DOT. They was going to give us $600,000. I talked to them last week. It is up there. All I got to do is carry the RFP for and who we awarded it to. With that $600,000, we'll get the 30% matching from us. It'll be $180,000. 2016 LMIG, I'll set aside $300,000 for this bridge project. That'll be $90,000 matching. It brings the total of $1,170,000. So what I'm going to do this year, 2020 LMIG, I'm going to set aside another $300,000. So we'll get that check hopefully in October. And so that'll be another $90,000 matching, brings the total to $1,560,000. The bridge cost at $1,115,653. That'll leave $444,346 for the county to construct the road and tie everything in.
good job,
Yes.
good job.
Ms. Blackman, did I remember correctly that there was a portion or something to do with this that we had to take the low bidder because of something to do with GDOT or?
With road construction, we're required by state law to take the low bid.
Okay, I just thought that was an important clarification, since how the company was not local, that was understood.
But they furnish a performance bond, payment
They did,
performance
yes.
bond.
All their paperwork was in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve. It's a much-needed bridge. My children have been up and down it
Second.
many times. So-
Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Do we want to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the?
I took it as the whole,
Yeah,
entire documents. I did all, is that okay with you, Stacy?
Is that-
I was one big,
Yes, this line item included the
Okay.
Yes.
intergovernmental agreement, so we're good.
Okay. Charles, you get to stay up there for a while. Item 914, consideration of bids for restriping and paving markers on up to 50 miles of various roadways throughout Carroll County, including the restriping of center lines, edge lines, and 40 stop crossbars.
We sent out the RFPs on the restriping. We had 4 companies to respond to that. The low bidder was Tidwell Traffic Solutions for $169,824.60. And what we had actually to spend is about $215,000, and 65 of that was DOT money that we're gonna be getting. So it looks like we will be able to add probably 7 or 8 miles to the 50, so hopefully we'll get close to 60 miles for right around 200,000.
Good job.
Good deal.
Mr. Pope, I've got a question. I noticed Highway Services was one of the highest bids on there, and I noticed you have used them in previous years. Do you feel like this particular vendor, it'll be spec for spec as far as the quality, with it being a cheaper?
I do. I brought some stuff where this company has worked before. We'll pass it around. And they have previously done some work in the city of Carroll.
Okay.
Got a big resume.
Well, I would look for a motion from
And
the board.
they are DOT
Make a motion.
approved on the
Second.
contractors list.
I heard a motion. I apologize. Did I hear a second?
He seconded.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just didn't hear. I apologize. Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 915, consideration of bids for the grinding and removal of yard waste services for Carroll County Solid Waste Management Facility.
We sent out the RFPs on the grinding for solid waste, the inert material. We only had one response, and that's Tag Grinding out of Marietta, Georgia also. And their bid was $24 to grind and remove.
And what were we paying? What was we paying for this service? You said $24.
$24 a ton.
What was we paying for the per tonnage?
Well, we hadn't ground any in 2 years, or 3 years now, because we couldn't get rid of it. So, last year, we carried all that to Haralson County. We carried about 10,000 tons to Haralson County and paid $34 a ton.
$34.
Plus
Trucking.
Plus trucking, so we're saving.
Plus, we had to buy the dump trailers, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? And Charles, as always, thank you for finding money for us. Item 916, consideration of bids for new half-ton and three-quarter-ton trucks for Carroll County Public Works, Parks, and Fire Rescue Departments.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt at this point, the next 3 items regarding these automobiles, it appears that a vendor, Don Rich Ford out of Villarica, placed a bid through our RFP. I feel the need to recuse myself. I've had a long-standing business affiliation with that particular vendor and feel it's appropriate not to participate in the discussions or the vote.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Clint. Go ahead.
We sent out the RFPs for the F-150 trucks, and actually they're gonna be 3 of them. 2 of them will be going to the fire department, 1 of them will be going to being skipper. We didn't get no response from anybody in the county but one dealer, and that is Don Rich Ford from Villarica. The next lowest bid was Chad White Chrysler out of Valdosta, Georgia, at $26,618. Don Rich come in at $30,957. And I think we can justify going with the Ford product because they're in the county. Also, if we went with the Dodge product, we reached out to Douglas County Vehicle Maintenance Facility today. Some friends of ours work down there, and they actually modeled their building after our public works facility. But they had to buy some pods that ties into the computer and the truck. They bought 2 of them. They're $615 a piece. They had 2 laptops. You pay $1,300 per year to tie on to the Dodge, the internet from the Dodge. And we would probably have to upgrade our alignment machine for that. And if we went with the Dodge trucks, then we would have to secure a wireless connection, as long as we was on their site.
And with the Ford,
So-
y'all have all the tools and diagnostic equipment
Yes, that's
because we have so many in our fleet. I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? Item 917, consideration of bids for half-ton F.
Three-quarter.
Sir?
3/4 ton.
3/4 ton, okay. My bad.
All right, we actually sent out the bids, the same thing on them. The low bidder on the 3/4 ton trucks was Don Rich Ford out of Villa-Rica for $30,062. So I would recommend the low bid on this one, Don Rich Ford in Villa-Rica. And there'll be 2 of them for Public Works.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. I think that gets us down to item 918, consideration for the new SUVs for the Correctional Institute and Fire Rescue Departments.
Yeah, this vehicle here will go to Public Works. It will be a Ford XLT. The Chad White Chrysler in Valdosta was actually the cheapest at $34,187. Don Rich was the only dealer in the county that actually bidded on it. So his bid was $36,900. So my recommendation is to go with Don Rich Ford out of Villa-Rica.
For much the same reasons as the other.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Changing gears. I think that gets everything, Charles.
Next one on the list
Yes, sir.
is we sent out the RFPs for a full-size SUV vehicle, police interceptor. No one in the county bidded on it. The only bid we had was the bid out of Union City for Dodge Durango. Is $32,657. In the meantime, the Sheriff's Department's got several of these Tahoe SUV vehicles, and you very seldom see any of them in the vehicle maintenance shop. They're good vehicles and they're full-size vehicles. So Ken Reeves asked us to reach out to Brandon Motor Company in Unadilla, so we did. This here is what we actually we tried up in Dallas, the big
Hardy.
yeah. They didn't have anything. You had to wait to mid-August, till they started making the 2020 models before you could order, and they would be 5 to 7% higher than the 19 models. So Brandon Motor Company out of Unadilla, they only have 3 of these. They're being made right now. They'll be delivered to their place the 1st of the month. They'll be ready for pickup if we choose, probably the 2nd week of the next month. And then them vehicles are $37,500 each. and they are the police package. They won't come with lights and all on them because they won't need them, but they want the type of vehicle because it's a large SUV. So I would recommend that we buy these from Brandon Motor Company out of Unadilla for the $37,500 each.
And Charles, the same thing goes, that we will not have to buy any diagnostic equipment, no computers, nothing to work on. We've got everything to work on
All
these.
of this, we got everything to work in-house.
But the Dodge, we do not, right?
We do not.
And we'd have to subscribe to that
Yeah.
internet service? Okay,
That's correct.
I make a motion.
second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. Moving into item number 10, our zoning session. Before we move into the zoning sessions, I would like to read the policies and procedures governing the conduct of zoning hearings. The applicant or anyone speaking in favor of the application or request shall be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present their request. Anyone opposed to the request shall also have a total of 10 minutes to present their opposition. If there are multiple speakers for or against an application, ask them to please be mindful to allow for others to speak should they wish to do so. Anyone speaking for or against the application shall be allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak in rebuttal. At this time, I'll call on County Planner Janet Hyde for our zonings.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as the advice of the attorneys, I need to recuse myself from this zoning hearing.
From all of them, or
No, just this one.
just this
Yeah.
one she's about to produce? Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ms. Hyde?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The first item that I have for you all tonight is a rezoning Highway 113 at Country Lane. This is consideration of owner Jan K. Wilson and applicant Robert S. Lewis rezoning requests for 18.04 acres from Ag to R2 residential for the purpose of a subdivision. This is land lot 14 of the 6th District, parcel 1050009, located on Highway 113 at Country Lane. This is Commission District 3. Before I make my staff comments on this case, I do want to let you know that I received a call from the applicant this afternoon asking what his options were as far as postponing this case. Our ordinance does provide that if you ask to postpone within the 48-hour window, you have to withdraw without prejudice. That means you cannot resubmit within 12 months. However, this board has the option of either tabling this request, approving it, denying it, or allowing him to withdraw it without prejudice so that he can reapply within 12 months. Given that information, he is asking this board to table it until after the election.
I make a motion to table it.
But I do want to go ahead and present the case because the ordinance does also require that we have the public hearing tonight because it is within the 48-hour window.
Could we do the hearing first and then decide?
And then you'll decide.
Thank you.
Yep. So staff recommended denial of this application because it does not meet the future land use. Planning Commission also recommended denial. Although this does abut an existing subdivision, it does not meet the future land use. The future land use for this area is for it to remain agriculture. The applicant's proposing 2-acre lots, but R2 rezoning does allow for 1-acre lots. I do want to clarify something for the public's benefit. At the Planning Commission meeting, there was some confusion about the applicant's previous project at North Hewlett. He did apply for 1-acre lots, and he did, his concept plan did include 1-acre lots. So with that said, I'm going to let the applicant come forward and speak on his behalf.
Jan, they're having some trouble in the back hearing. Could you
I'm sorry.
just explain? I didn't realize that till just now, sir. I apologize. I did not see you.
Can we turn it up some? Can you turn the mic up?
Or is she just gonna have to lean in closer, Pete? Oh, that squeaky, that squeaky sound? Yep. Yeah, we don't want that. Jan, if you could just get in closer where,
Okay.
let him see what he can get done, but.
Testing. Hello?
Lean in, please, ma'am.
Hello? Is that better?
Move it up just a little bit more too.
Hello? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
How's that,
Is that
folks?
any better?
I don't,
Maybe my batteries are going down.
That mic's monitor is here.
Okay,
It comes to different speakers.
okay.
just talk louder, I guess.
Okay. Do I need to repeat any of that for the benefit of the public? Yes. Okay. So just to reiterate, the applicant has asked for this case to be tabled. He is outside the 48-hour window that he can withdraw this case at this time. Because we are outside that within that 48-hour window, the board is required to go ahead and have a public hearing.
Maybe if you have to take it out or something and hold it closer, if that would benefit, I mean.
Okay, so the planning commission recommended denial.
Closer, I think you're still having trouble.
The staff has recommended denial of this case. I don't know if this could work.
I wonder if you could use her mic.
Let's try one of those, see if that would help you.
Just cut that one off and use.
If you need to scoot that over some to the podium to where it won't be pulling on the cords.
I think she did cut the other one off.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Bring it up closer.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Check 1, 2.
Musical podiums.
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3.
That's
Better.
I'm seeing heads nodding now. So. Now let's try this for
Okay.
third time's a charm.
So the applicant has requested to table this application. Because we are within the 48-hour window, he cannot withdraw the application without running into the penalty that he cannot reapply for a year. We are required to go ahead and have the public hearing for this case because it is within that 48-hour window. So I'm going to go ahead and present this case. The applicant will have a chance to speak, and then we will have a chance for public comment. This is consideration of owner Jan K. Wilson and applicant Robert S. Lewis, rezoning for 18.04 acres. This is application Z-19-03-01. The rezoning is from Ag to R2 residential for the purpose of a subdivision. This is parcel 1050009, located on Highway 113 at Country Lane. This is Commission District 3. Staff recommended denial. Planning Commission recommended denial. Although it is abutting an existing subdivision, it does not meet the future land use, and the future land use is agricultural. The applicant is proposing 2-acre lots, but R2 does allow for 1-acre lots. And I'm going to let the applicant come forward at this time.
Please state your name and address for the record too, please, sir.
Excuse me, Robert Lewis, 10 Edgewood Drive, Carrollton, Georgia. I'm here tonight to propose the rezoning of 18.04 acres on Country Lane. We've run into some issues that I would like to ask for a table of this for the next zoning once we have a quorum. If that's possible, I'd love to ask for that now.
I look for some direction from the board.
Was it my
Unless, do you want to go over the options again, Janet, just so?
Yeah, the options are that you all can table it, you can approve it, you can deny it, or you can allow him to withdraw without prejudice, which would mean he can reapply within 12 months. You do have to have public comment, though.
Okay.
So he gets his 10 minutes, and then the rest get their 10 minutes. Okay,
Right.
I wanted to make sure that was.
All right, is there anyone else here to speak in favor of item 10.1? I'll ask again, anyone else here in favor, to speak in favor of item 10.1? Seeing none, we'll call for opposition. Anyone here to speak in opposition of item 10.1? Please come forward, state your name and address, please, sir.
Hi, my name's Doug Dickinson. I currently live in Douglas County, lived there 21 years. We're had 6 children that grew up there, and we've moved to Carrollton through my son moving to Carrollton a year and a half ago. Brought us out here more often, seeing grandkids, and kind of fell in love with the area. Found a lot in Carrollton that we don't have in Douglas County, and we're ready to downsize, and we chose this area to downsize. We've lived on 21 acres there. We've recently sold, bought 18 acres out on 113. Closing on a house downtown Carrollton tomorrow morning, where we're going to live for a couple of years while we build the house on 113. This property is directly to the east, straight across the street, and adjoining the second tract that the Mr. Lewis has under contract, as well as the property on the west side of this from the same owner. Our concern is, first of all, because we bought in the area because y'all had in 2018, I think, adopted a long-range plan to continue to keep that area agricultural. And we chose this area 2 miles from our grandkids, which my son's on 20 acres, and then we bought, like I say, 34 acres actually, and split it with my brother-in-law. He's going to build there as well. But anyway, across the street on the west side, I really don't have a whole lot to do with that. I understand there's a subdivision over there, and they have some 2-acre lots, or smaller or large. I don't know exactly what those lot sizes are, but I do know that we have a watershed lake on that side. It makes no sense to me to be making lot sizes smaller on that side of the road with additional septic tanks draining in that area. Also, the only purpose for cutting that down is a financial thing. He's already got the road built, the infrastructure's built, the water mains run through. All he has to do is cut off, draw lines and develop this either 8 lots or 4 lots. I hate to see that happen in this area, but what really concerns me is if they get that type zoning, that the reason he has the property across the street under contract as well, so if he gets that, it'll just move straight across the street to the east side, which adjoins our property. And if he's got to get eight lots for the 18 acres to make it make sense with the infrastructure already built, being the roads and the water mains and all, he'll have to have 1-acre lots across the street to do all the infrastructure and put the decel lane and make a safe entrance into a new subdivision if it carries across the Highway 113. We were very pleased at the meeting last week and how that went, and for the not the council but the zoning board to stand up for the long range plan and stick to the 4-acre minimum. And we would hope that y'all would follow suit and go with what you voted for in 18 and the long range plan with 4-acre lots minimum and keep this area agricultural. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, come forward. And if you'll state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name's Fred Adams. I live at 218 Country Lane, and I'm opposed to One, to the postponement. There was a zoning hearing last week that had been previously scheduled, and he postponed it one time. It seemed like he'd be ready if he's going to be ready tonight. And after sitting here for 2 hours and hearing some other things, I'd like to get it resolved. But I'm opposed because I think 113 is a rural road. There's very few turn lanes. There's virtually no shoulders. My wife and I counted 5 fatalities we know of in the time we've lived at Country Lane on 113. She was rear-ended where there was no turn lane and is disabled now partially because of that. There's no turn lane even at the school. That's one road to the south of the proposed development area. I just think the highway 113 would need to be improved drastically before there's any zoning that's not agricultural along that area. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please state your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Hervola, 234 Country Lane. I am speaking for our Country Lake Estates Board, if I may, the rest of the neighborhood. So number 1, master plan. It is not in your master plan. 2, Fred brought up the traffic. There's an incredibly dangerous curve right there. Several accidents. I wish I had the numbers for you, but I do not. Legally, if we do get this rezoned, he can still do whatever he wants, and his little 2-acre plan that was previous doesn't matter. I agree. We've already been rescheduled. I am asking you no tabling tonight. I am asking you to have him withdrawn, so he has to resubmit in a year, and we have to do the process again. He shouldn't have asked to rezone if he wasn't ready. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry. I'm Judy Irvin, and I'm right across the road. The property line splits Country Lane Estates Road. There's a lot of natural drainage on that property. I've lived on it, I've hunted on it, I've tended to it. There's a lot of deep natural drainage down in there. There's a lot of wildlife down in there, and if they don't want to see me shoot a deer in front of them, then don't let this go through, because I don't want to be harassed shooting guns, killing deer, or doing whatever I've been able to do on my property. I've had trouble with trespassers, just with the subdivision. I've had trouble with trespassers, and I know that if this goes through, it's going to rip this community apart. This is my cousin. We have no hard feelings. But I know that if this goes as rezoned, please let me make it, this guy is going to resell to another guy. And whatever's decided, he ain't got a hold to it. He can go down to 1/2-acre lots. I mean, we don't need the traffic. My daughter's almost been killed. My son-in-law's been hit twice because they live on the left side going towards Temple. And people, they have turning in their driveway. People's passing on the left just because they don't want to take time to pay attention. I mean, there was somebody run off the road the other day. My neighbor across the road had 3 cars probably turned over in his yard because people's not paying attention. I have to turn my blinker on almost 1,000 feet before I get to my driveway. I mean, you know, we don't need this extra traffic. These people don't live here. My cousin's in Atlanta. She don't know, you know, he's not going to put up with the noise. He's not going to put up with the headaches and the wrecks of how many lives is going to be in jeopardy. All he wants to do is rezone it for somebody to buy. And I appreciate you hearing me out.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? I ask again, is anyone else here to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Ken Harden. Live at 78 Country Lane. And one thing that people aren't mentioning here is there's a watershed lake back there. And all this property, if it's set up for 1 acre lots, then all the drainage off of that property is going into that City of Carrollton watershed lake. So that's just all I wanted to mention.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in opposition to item 10.1? Ask again, anyone else to speak in opposition to item 10.1? Seeing none, the applicant now has 5-minute rebuttal period.
Okay, one thing to kind of clarify on this whole piece. It's currently zoned to where can be 4 lots. That's true. The parcel that is across the street is not part of this rezoning at all. It has not been applied for. We were asked by the owner to purchase all or purchase none. So we have no plans at the time for that piece of property across the road. It is not feasible to put another entrance on 113 for that small tract. Clarifying that, the 4 acres can be built on right now, and either I'm going to do it, someone else is going to do it, whether it's now, whether it's a year from now. The people that are selling the property are retiring. They're trying to get what they can out for their retirement, for their medical, for all the things that they need to do. I'm here trying to develop this in a situation to where the county benefits, the subdivision benefits, and everyone can benefit actually. The property as it sits can be minimum 1,230 square foot houses, if I'm correct, or mobile homes can be moved in. I'm proposing, if I have to go forward without tabling this, we're proposing 8 2-acre minimum lots on this tract that's being zoned currently. The size house, I'm here willing to stipulate with conditions for the house sizes of a minimum of 2,400 square feet. A side entry garage with concrete drive. I'll increase the front setback to add a buffer between Country Lane and these houses that are being built from 45, which is current, to 90 feet. That will add buffer for these people that have to drive up and down Country Lane. And I will stipulate that no rezoning for the adjacent property that's across 113. We'll not rezone it, ever. We'll leave it agricultural. The one thing I'm trying to get across is why I asked for the delay was I would like to try to have more time to talk to the subdivision, the homeowners association, to where they can actually stipulate what size houses, what kind of houses they would like. If it's denied tonight or it's tabled with prejudice tonight, then for a year, the only thing we have left is to sell 4-acre lots, which will be a minimum. The community has no leverage on what can be built there. A mobile home can be moved in. These are just the options I'm offering. When I rezoned the other property a couple months ago, a lot of the things that I was hearing was Carroll County Light that wanted 2 acre lots. That was the way to go in Carroll County. I don't 100% agree with that, but I made my best step forward on this one with the consideration of doing minimum 2 acre lots for what Carroll County wanted. And what would be nice actually meet the standards or be greater than the standards of the subdivision and the surrounding property. If the community does not, back me on at least tabling it for more time without prejudice, there's interested parties already that want to buy the 4 acre lots, and they'll do whatever the county standards are without any consideration for the subdivision, and I don't want that. That's not what I was trying to do from the very beginning. From the very beginning, I wanted to do 2 acre lots to maximize the house size and the quality of homes there. But with the 4 acre lots, they can't, it's not going to bring that kind of development. The only other thing I would like to say is just, please, if you have it in your heart to consider a table this without prejudice where we could talk to them and maybe get our minds together on it. If not, we'll move forward with whatever situation is, left for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of rebuttal? No? Excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize. That's why that lady gets paid the big bucks, to keep me straight. Is there anyone to speak against in rebuttal? And you too have up to 5 minutes, ma'am. And I apologize, Susan, for not paying closer attention.
Once again, Susan Hervela, 234 Country Lane.
Thank you, ma'am.
We all live in the county. We know what to expect. The way it's zoned, 4 acre lots are wonderful. I don't have a problem with a mobile home. It is a home. He's had 60 days, I believe, to formulate a plan. If he doesn't have his act together now, I am a businesswoman in town. I have to have my stuff together. Someone explained to me the last plan, the last subdivision he sold, he did not develop himself. So let me reiterate, legally, this is sold to somebody else developed it. His wonderful 2 acre lots and house plans really don't mean anything because anyone can buy it and do what they want once it's rezoned. We could have 18 1 acre lots. That's a lot out there. Domino effect, I've still got property adjacent to that, up to the church. My neighbor to the right of that, she does not want this, but still domino effect, what happens in the future, we don't know. And then what are we left with? More homes out there because y'all have already let this one go. So I'm asking you again to not let him table this. Let's withdraw it, let him resubmit, give him a year to get his stuff together, or so he sells it, that's fine too. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, or Ms. Blackman, are we allowed to ask a question?
Do we still have some time remaining? Anyone else to speak? Again, if you'll please, ma'am, state your name and address.
Yeah, I'm Judy Irvin. I'm at 2306. But it's like I said, there's a lot of natural drainage. Yes, that mud is going to go back on my property. I had a problem when they built the road to go to the subdivision because they were promised a road off of 113. I had to call EPA and the EPD and the code enforcement down here in Carrollton. I mean, I don't need no more trouble on my property. And we don't need the traffic. We don't need the noise because whoever buys it from him don't give a rat's tail. I mean, we have enough of wrecks. I would give anything because if this is stopped, and please vote on it tonight, Because in the future, my child might be faced with the same situation of somebody wanting to come in on my property after I'm gone. I mean, she lives on one side of the property, I live on the other. My daddy had a farm. We had cows. We got hay. So please, keep this agriculture. I'll take 2 houses made out of shipping containers. I'll take trailers. That's no big deal. They have nice trailers these days. I'm not opposed to anything, but just please keep it agriculture. Please.
Have a minute and a half remaining for rebuttal. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition during the rebuttal period? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name's Craig Widener. I'm 34 Overlook Way. I'll be brief. It just seems to me that the goalpost just keeps moving and moving and moving every time we meet. And it's just not fair to the community to make and y'all, to make an honest assessment if that keeps happening. So tabling it doesn't seem to me a logical option for me. And I would at least, have them resubmit with an honest assessment. That's just my 2 cents worth. So anyway, thank you. God bless each one of y'all.
Thank you, sir. Have 1 minute left. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition during the rebuttal period? Ask a second time. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition during the rebuttal period? Seeing none, we'll close that and we'll open it up for questions from the board.
I'd like to say,
or action.
I'd like to say something, Chairman. I don't think there's a commissioner that's ever been on this board that has fought for agriculture as much as I have. I don't think that there's a commissioner that's ever done as much for the rural part of Carroll County that I have. And the reason why I asked for tabling, I'm going to withdraw that for a minute, is I thought that he needed to get some more information down. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm against big growth in Carroll County, and I fought it since I've been on the commission. I'm going to continue to fight it. We do not need any more big uncontrolled growth like Douglas County's had and Paulding County's had. I'm 100% with the people on this, but we do we do need to control our growth here in Carroll County, and the boundaries do seem, Mr. Widener, that it keeps going out and out, and the board. It's time for us to do something about it. It's time for us to decide what we want in Carroll County. Do we want to be a Douglas County, which I do not want? Do we want to be a Paulding County, which I do not want? Or do we want to be a great Carroll County like we have? So I just wanted to make that comment. But no, I'm not for turning any agricultural land into residential land. So if I'm going to withdraw if that was his intent to do, just prolong it, I'm going to withdraw my motion that I made earlier.
All right, sir. I don't think we actually had a second anyway. So,
Commissioners, I sat on the comp use plan for over a year. We had many different meetings throughout the county. Janet showed up several times to our meeting. We all did vote, excuse me, Clint, you did not, you weren't here, but we all did vote on the land use plan, so I would like to encourage and suggest that we stick with our plan that we voted on. So I'm going to make a motion to deny this request.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know the lady that spoke earlier that said that she was representing the HOA. I'd like to know if she was an officer on the HOA or just simply a resident that felt she was speaking on behalf of the HOA. Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? We have the motion and the second for denial of item 10-1. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you, sir. Item 10-2 has been postponed prior to this meeting within the prescribed time frame. Item 10-3, rezoning of 3137 Carrollton Villa Rica Highway.
Yes, this is consideration of owner TTG Rentals LLC and applicant Brian Garrett. Rezoning request for 5.19 acres from ag to commercial for the purpose of commercial development. This is parcel 154-0038, located at 3137 Carrollton Villa Rica Highway. This is Commission District 5. Staff recommended approval of this, and Planning Commission recommended approval. The future land use for this is commercial. It is in the commercial corridor. A portion of this property is already zoned commercial. They are just asking to rezone the entire parcel to commercial so they can use it for commercial development. And there is a representative of the applicant present.
Okay, we'll open it up. Anyone here to speak in favor? If you'll state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Lester Bell. I live at 963 Whooping Creek Road. I'm here on behalf of TTG Rentals. They're simply trying to sell the property. They've had a few people interested, but when they find out that it's a little under half of it zoned agricultural, everybody seems to walk away. So they're just trying to sell property. They don't have any intentions at this time to develop it. They just want to get the whole property zoned commercial, whereas right now it's only the first 300 feet that's zoned commercial.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone else here to speak in favor of this? I ask again, is anyone else here to speak in favor of this zoning item? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this zoning item? I'll ask again, anyone here to speak in opposition to this zoning item? Seeing none, Mr. Bell, you obviously have the right to rebut yourself if you so desire, but all right, seeing none, I would look for some direction from the board.
Is this piece of property that's right across the street from Dyer Road?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yes, it is. It's at the corner of Ira Smith and Highway 61.
I think it's where Mr. Bearden was going.
Build that tractor where he was going to move his tractor. I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Ms. Hyde, is there been any sort of business plan put forward? It sounded like the gentleman said that they were just looking to sell the property.
Right, we have not received anything about what they're planning to do with the property.
Has there been any prior precedent or any discussion in prior to approve commercial where we've had an opportunity to look at some sort of plan in which the property would be utilized for?
Not really. We don't require that they tell us what the plan is for the property. Of course, if they know what they're doing with it, they always or usually tell us what it is. But it's not required by the ordinance that they tell us.
Okay. Is there any desire on your part to look at a plan commercially, or is?
Well, typically we would like to know what the use is going to be, but that will be addressed at the time of any development permit. You know, they would have to meet certain requirements by the DOT regarding the use. Like if the use is going to be more intensive, then they might have to put in a deceleration lane, that sort of thing. So any of those kind of requirements would be addressed at the time of development.
Okay, so, and I know you recommended approval, but your department would not have any heartache moving forward as far as you feel like those things would be addressed down the road. Is that what I'm hearing
Right.
you say?
That's correct. I mean,
Okay.
a portion of the property is already zoned commercial.
Does that get what you need, Cliff?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, yes, sir. All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed, thank you. Item 10-4, rezoning of 161 Old Camp Church Road.
This is consideration of owner Juanita and Carlos Watson and applicant Jeff Gibbs rezoning request, application Z-19-04-02, from ag to R2 residential for the purpose of a subdivision. This is parcel 077-0711 and parcel 077-0385. This is Commission District 4. Staff recommended approval of this application. Planning Commission also recommended approval. The future land use is residential. The applicant is proposing to rezone 60 acres of the 68 that are included in the parcel. He's holding out 8 acres that would not be rezoned. He's asking for approximately 38 lots with about 14 acres of green space. There is an issue with the water lines going to this property in that right now there's a 4-inch water main instead of the required 6-inch. And the applicant is aware of that, and they've had some communication with the Water Authority about that. And the applicant is present.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll open the floor. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of item 10-4? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Jeff Gibbs, 65 Camp Lane. Rezoning would like to get the 60 acres adjacent to my property, adjacent to Old Camp Woods, rezoned to 1 acre building lots. The main reason I'm wanting to do this is because, one, it's going to happen. 2, I want to be in control of what happens because I'm going to be their neighbor. I want to be able to control how it's built and make sure that it's built the same way as Old Camp Woods is. Old Camp Woods is a success, it has been, and mainly because of, 1, the neighbors, 2, you have covenants that are in place that restrict, that are there to protect the neighbors, to protect their value. The planning board did say, put a stipulation 1,800 square feet per home. That's not a problem. That's what I want to do anyway. We've met the requirements for green space. A little backstory, we bought the property, and right within 30 to 50 yards of where my kid's tree house is. I don't know if y'all have seen the pictures that I've taken, but tire dump, trash. I'm not going to call it a meth lab because I'm not qualified to call it a meth lab, but there's obviously some drug activity going on there. The house that is there has been vandalized. So my objective is to make what's there obviously better, and what is in my neighborhood, not just Old Camp Woods, but what's in my part of the county better. Again, it does meet the land use map as a residential. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of item 10-4? If you'll state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
I'm Scott Singleton. I reside at 228 Old Driver Road, Whitesburg, Georgia. I've had the privilege to know Jeff and his family for the last 10 years. We've attended multiple events that Old Camp Church, or not Old Camp, holds at their, whether it be Halloween or just neighborhood get-togethers. We have a lot of friends in the school system, and everybody pinpoints to want to go towards Old Camp. The environment that it presents for a family atmosphere is bar none for Carroll County. And with that being said, I would recommend that another opportunity to create another Old Camp be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of item 10-4? I ask again, anyone else here to speak in, excuse me, in favor of item 10.4? Seeing none, we'll open it up for anyone here to speak in opposition to item 10.4. Again, anyone else, anyone here to speak in opposition to item 10.4? Seeing none, gentlemen, I assume that you don't want to rebut yourselves? Okay, thank you. All right, well, I'll look for some direction from the board.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve with the 1,800 square foot that the planning zone recommended.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Wake up.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Do you plan on building those homes, Mr. Kidd?
That's not.
You gonna zone it and
But I'm not
sell it?
opposed to that as a, but I am going to write the covenants. Whoever builds the house,
Well, you just zoning it and then you're gonna sell it to a builder?
that is the intention, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion to add that the covenants match or equal Old Camp Woods.
Second.
Is the board good with that amendment to the motion then? All right. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 10.5, rezoning Little Vine Church Road.
This is item, sorry, can't turn my page. Z-19-04-03. This is consideration of owner James Miller and Darrell Wilson and applicant Mike Lee's rezoning request from Ag to R2 residential for the purpose of a subdivision. This is parcel 173-0049 located on Little Vine Church Road. This is Commission District 5. This is 80.49 acres. Staff recommended approval, Planning Commission recommended approval with the 1,800 square foot minimum. The future land use is residential. The applicant is proposing approximately 58 lots with 10.4 acres of green space. He is proposing approximately 10 acres of cash in lieu of green space. We do have that option in our ordinance that someone can put money into our green space fund. Staff had no response from the neighborhood once the public notice went out, and the applicant is present.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll open it up. Anyone here to speak in favor of item 10.5?
Good evening. My name is Mike Lee. I live at 9042 Tarnwood Circle. The application is for rezoning from agricultural to R2. It fits exactly in the future land use plan. Our plan is to eventually develop it. We don't have an immediate plan right now, and we're happy to keep in the Planning and Zoning Board's request at 1,800 square feet. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of item 10.5? If you'll state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
James Miller, 616 Antioch Road, Dallas, Georgia. I'm the owner of this property, my wife, and this area is a growing area of Carroll County and would need subdivisions like this to further this growth. It is in the future plans for this to be residential, and I would like to ask that y'all approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of item 10.5? Anyone else here to speak in favor of item 10.5? Seeing none, we'll open the floor. Anyone here to speak in opposition to item 10.5? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of item 10.5? Seeing none, I'm going to assume, as it's been in the past, you gentlemen don't have a desire to rebut yourselves. So, all right, I'll look for some direction from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve with 1,800 square foot minimum.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do have some discussion, and you know, that's on Little Vine Church Road, and I'd like to call on Mr. Pope to come up to the podium for a minute. We've had a lot of trouble on that road trying to get it widened. We've had a lot of problems, and I understand that there was nobody in opposition to tonight, but I received a lot of phone calls myself and in disgust because of what happened on the other one. They think the board don't listen to them, and they think that that we don't care, and they just think that Douglas County can just keep on coming across the line. I understand that the reason I'm against this thing, and the reason I'd like to bring up the issue of that road, is for the past 3 or 2.5 years since I've been on the board, we've had one complaint after another complaint after another complaint about the road and not being wide enough to get the cars and people meeting. If y'all went down that road, you know that road is unsafe. I think Mr. Pope, and correct me if I'm wrong, y'all are trying right now to get the land so we can do something with that, right?
That is correct. Prior to Chairman Smith leaving the board, we've been out there several times looking at it. And that road right now has a 40-foot assumed right-of-way. And our ordinance, assumed right-of-way means top of back of ditch to top of back of ditch. And most of that road, the banks is right against the edge of the pavement now. So we have no right-of-way. And also, on the north side of that road going down, the Water Authority's spray field site butts up to it. And they own, the Water Authority owns 6/10 along the edge of the road. So Matt is in the process of getting with the EPD to see if we can get right-of-way through there. Can he give us the right-of-way, because all that's tied up in the spray irrigation site, right up to our right-of-way. So we are in the process. Hopefully the next chairman that comes in, that we will revisit this, and the road does need some work on it.
And wouldn't you say that putting another subdivision, it's not particularly the safest road in Carroll County to add that many more cars that's going back and forth? I mean, we just dealt with this other subdivision.
Let me say, the road itself, the structure of the road will hold the cars. That won't be a problem. But the shoulders and all, where we don't have shoulders, we just resurfaced this road this past summer. We came back right behind it and built shoulders. And most all of them is gone now because of the cars running off the shoulder. That's why we need shoulders and ditches on that road.
And that's my point. The most important thing we have to look at is public safety.
Yes.
And public safety with our citizens. We've got to protect our citizens. And for us to approve something that we know that people are running off the road already. Matter of fact, y'all got cones over there right now, right?
We do.
Okay, because so many people's running off, the road's completely muddy and a mess right now, right?
That is correct.
I just don't think it's a smart decision from this board to increase more houses on a road that we know that's unsafe right now. I mean, I just don't think, I think it's very unwise of us doing that.
So if we thought it was unwise, we shouldn't have voted on the land use plan.
Correct.
So we voted on the land use plan. I was actually running to become a commissioner at the time, and so I actually went to some of the meetings along with Commissioner Chance here, and so we watched, and hardly nobody showed up to those meetings. Okay, so and I actually stepped on the board in time to vote for that land use plan, actually after having the opportunity to vote. So I think we were looking at these things, and I'm like you. I don't like to turn ag to residential. But see, there's some areas in Carroll County that we decided that will become residential in the future. So
I totally understand.
I trust our zoning committee to make the right decisions for us. And so tonight, this just falls in place. It falls in place for the future land use. So I mean, that's kind of how I see it. So I'm not really going against my morals. I just know that we voted against it. We voted for the land use plan some time ago.
And I appreciate what you're saying, Commissioner Montreal, but that road is not the safest road. It's curvy. there's been a lot of complaints on it, and it's just,
Ms.
go
Hyde,
there.
Ms. Hyde, this discussion has been brought up before, and I asked the question, is there any type of ignition switch, so to speak, in the department that if we're looking at this, that we would do a study? And I know studies cost money, but is there anything as far as a traffic study? I think, and I respect what everyone is saying here this evening, but at the end of the day, a lot of this talk is subjective. I can sit and make an argument that it's completely not safe. I can make an argument that it's somewhat not safe. I can make an argument that it's good to go, and I make an argument that it's the best road in Carroll County. And it's no offense to the commissioner. I'm just saying, if we're going to look at these things and try to make determinations, what mechanisms do we have in place in our department that would trigger that if a zoning is coming up, that we look at a road and we say, we're going to have to spend the money, or we're going to have to ask the applicant to spend the money? And I don't know the legalities, but what mechanism do we have in place when we get ourselves in a circumstance like this where public safety is called into question, that we have something more than subjectivity to look at the matter?
And I don't know that we want to set a precedent for those studies per se, but we do ask for the road department's analysis of the road, and he did say that it was adequate. And I might let Avery address the legality of us requiring a study, that sort of thing. But I did want to address the mud situation. I think there was an issue with vandals on that road with the mud being caused. And in fact, I think the county even put up a camera to try to catch that person that was causing the mud.
I feel like this is something that we should have looked at before we did the land use map or approved the land use map. I'm like Clint. This is something that we should have looked at before we approved this. We got a land use map now we have to follow. That's just my opinion.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Item 10.6 is our public hearing regarding the Code of Ordinances of Carroll County to incorporate the Carroll County zoning ordinance and other general permanent ordinances of Carroll County in the Code of Ordinances of Carroll County. It's an open public hearing. We'll call on County Attorney Avery Jackson for any comment on this.
Chairman and Commissioners, we have before you today for your consideration a resolution to codify the county's zoning ordinance. There are no changes being made to the county's current zoning ordinance. The resolution is just moving the ordinance from being maintained by the Community Development Department on the county's website to being maintained by MuniCode on MuniCode's website, incorporated to the county's code of ordinances where all the other ordinances are housed and maintained.
Okay. This
Make
time,
a motion to approve.
we need to have our public
Second.
hearing, please, ma'am. Hold on just a second, guys. We've actually got to open this up for a public hearing, so I'll open this up for a public hearing, call for any comments. Any comments? Any comments? All right, we'll close this public hearing now. We'll move on to the amendment, item 10.7, which is essentially what Avery just did. Maybe I called you up a little too early, and I apologize that we have got that part done. Any questions for Avery on this? Or I will look for action from the board.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on item 10.7. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Do I have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending and potential litigation?
Motion made.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor? I will say, for the benefit of you all that are still here, thank you for hanging in there with us. We had a lot that we needed to get done tonight, the business of Carroll County, while we still had a quorum. You all are welcome to stay and wait for us to reconvene. However, I want to let you know that there will be no action taken when we return, with the exception of the adjournment of the meeting. So in consideration of you all's time, just make you aware of that.
Yes, sorry, I just when I saw Avery speak,